All right. Hey everyone, I'm Jonathan, and today I'm going to talk about a bit of my work as well as a new idea that I've been working on that is still in the preliminary or initial phase. So please stick with me and just I had an idea about what I do. So basically, I do data research on blockchain, so MEVs, front running, sandwich attacks, decentralized autonomous organizations as well. And recently, I've been also working on airdrop design, so basically proposing some guidelines to the industry. I have a paper available on my website on this QR code. You can find all my works open source. I mean, open access. So yeah, feel free to check it out as you wish. So who does know what is a decentralized autonomous organization as known as DAO? Could you please raise your hand? Yeah, a lot of people, right? But who here has ever worked with this space by developing something or by doing research on this space? Could you please raise your hand? Okay, cool. Yeah, so let me briefly introduce you about a little bit about DAOs. So this is really fascinating topic that basically allows you to provide decentralized governance. Imagine, for instance, into the traditional world, usually you have these companies, right? And then CEOs, managers, whenever they want to get together to make some decisions for these off-chain companies. So what happens is that these decisions might be taken, let's say, in closed door. So you don't get to know until they are implemented. However, with decentralized autonomous organization, you have these decisions in a transparent way. You can also participate, you can join, you can propose. So you are part of the game, right? That's really cool. And typically, it's of course, it's implemented through a smart contract that defines the rules on how this decentralized governance is going to work, right? Typically, your stake in the system, your voting power is basically a token based. But of course, there are other approaches that considers one person, one vote style. But here we can also mention that it's more community driven purpose, right? Because anyone from the community, as soon as they have some tokens, for instance, now one token, one vote style, you can participate, you can propose, you can vote, and that's it, right? That's really cool. And there are some key characteristics here. For instance, you have the notion of token ownership. Who owns what in the game in terms of tokens? And also token delegation. It's kind of a liquid democracy. So think of token delegation as the following. You have some tokens, but for some reason you don't want to participate in terms of voting or proposing. But you can delegate your voting power to another account, right? Another account that basically might represent your interests, right? This is one thing that you can do. Who can vote? People, I mean, not, I'm gonna avoid using users or people as the best as I can. I'm gonna refer them as accounts because we do have symbols, right? So basically, who can vote? Any account that has tokens delegated to the account, right? So for instance, if you own tokens, in order to vote, you need to delegate these tokens to yourself or to another account. So that's how you define voting power, right? And you have some different voting mechanisms. For instance, it can happen on-chain. So there is a poll tax. You have to pay a transaction fee, right, to issue a transaction in this on-chain voting mechanism, such that your transaction is going to be sent through some block proposal or whatever is going to add your transaction to the blockchain, and then, yeah, your vote, your proposal, now it's part of the blockchain and therefore valid, right? But then keep in mind that if you don't want to pay, there are some protocols that also has an off-chain voting mechanism that basically allows you to go off-chain and then cast your vote, typically for free, right? And then it happens really fast. But the problem is that you are gonna need to rely on some authority to basically reflect the proposal's outcome, I mean, if it passed, on the blockchain, right? Yeah, and there are a bunch of other stuff. Because of all those characteristics, there are many DAOs available nowadays. So for instance, we have for decentralized lending, we have decentralized exchanges, and many others. So typically, Most of the blockchain projects, of course, whenever they build their company, their project, their product, in the end of the day, what they are gonna do, they are gonna eventually launch a token, right? I have a paper written on this regard as well. If you find airdrop space and topic really interesting, please give it a try and read the paper. But after launching the tokens, what's next? So basically, let's give users the voting power or the ability to make decisions on this protocol, right? So that's basically why governance protocol is quite interesting and useful. So in the past, by the way, this paper is under submission. So basically, I did a case study on Compound and Uniswap, where I showed that basically I characterized these protocols. And I showed that these governance protocols, for instance, Compound and Uniswap, they are being really actively used. So people are engaging, are proposing, are voting on proposals. So it's quite cool. And most of the proposals, they passed with high percentage of voters in favors. I mean, people basically want those proposals to get passed, right? But of course, eventually some of them are gonna get rejected. The reason why proposals are passed with high percentage of voters in favor is because, even before you submit your proposal, or actually the act of propose your proposal, what happens in practice is that you want to do some temperature check. So you go to the community, you ask for feedback, even before proposing, right? And once you propose, there is a proposal life cycle that has, for instance, among all its life cycle, proposal reviewing, even before the proposal voting period starts. Other than that, guess what? There are token concentrations, and by consequence, we also have voting power concentration. This means that, this notion of decentralized governance might not be entirely decentralized, because the voting power might be in the hands of a few participants. So basically, this is bad for the system, right? And other than that, we also analyze voting cost. It can be really expensive for some small players, which decrease or might decrease their participation. And yeah, we also analyze voting coalitions as well. More results you will be able to find on the paper. There is an archive link here that basically contains information about our preliminary results. Keep in mind that this paper has been updated, so not on archive yet because it's under submission, but yeah. So, but then you remember that I mentioned something really regarding token delegation, right? Let's say we know that there are, based on our papers and also some folks, for instance, from ETH, they have done a lot of work on this space as well. We know that there are some token concentration. And the thing is, what can we do about it, right? So think about that regarding token concentration or voting power, it's basically, it translates to maybe token delegation in the end, right? Why? Because basically your voting power, it is defined as the amount of tokens delegated you have in your address. So I was basically wondering and thinking about it. It's like, among all the accounts available, to whom should I delegate my tokens to? Should I blindly select the accounts to give away then my voting power if I don't want to participate in the governance process? So think about it. Which accounts should I actually delegate my tokens, right? So nowadays, there are a lot of platforms. For instance, Tally is really a well-known case for it. It provides a lot of transparency, a lot of understanding about the accounts, the proposals active. I'm gonna show you right in the next slide. But typically, it's really, really difficult for players to, or users, or delegators to basically choose and pick the most appropriate account that they want to delegate their tokens to. So for instance, let's see how Tally works here in a really high level idea. Tally is really a beautiful platform. Many protocols nowadays, for instance, Arbitrum, Compound, and many others, use Tally for their government management, but they also assist you in terms of if you want to launch your own token. So yeah, reach out to them if you find it, if you need their services. But we are gonna focus on the governance management here. So the thing is, as you can see, here you have a page that summarizes what is going on with Compound. So for instance, in this other tab, we have the list of proposals, whether they pass, whether they did not pass, as long as failing as well, and also proposals that are active. So which means that if you have tokens delegated to yourself, you can vote yes, no, right? I mean, it's bad, it's really good when you have an informed vote, right? But then, regarding the community here tab, that they basically shows you the accounts, right, that basically have some voting power, or accounts that have some tokens delegated to them. Theoretically speaking, those are the players who can actually vote in favor or against some proposal, in this case in compound. But then keep in mind that they have categorized these accounts based on some groups. For instance, let's say grant programs, public goods, or community outreach, or even working groups, for instance, Michigan blockchain, maybe. But one thing that is really interesting to me is how they rank order these accounts based on only these three topics here. The first one is based on their voting power, which means that basically those are the players who have a high voting power will appear in the top. And second, they also allow you to sort this list of accounts based on the amount of accounts that delegated their tokens to these other accounts. So basically, that's what they call received delegations. And of course, random, but I mean, by some definition of random. Let's assume it's correct. But then the thing is, let me also introduce something here. So you know that ranking depends on how you rank other users. You can actually bias a user's preference or choices, right? So think about it. When you go to Google and you search something there, usually, I mean, who goes to the second page? Third page? Okay, and among the, let's say, now let's focus on the first page then. Within the first page, I mean, usually people rely on the top results, right? So it's like there are a lot of results in the literature showing these things, right? For instance, there is also another work that did something related to Amazon products. So basically, these researchers, they showed that Amazon products ranked first. They are going to be sold more. And keep in mind that that might be the reason why Amazon put their products on top of the list, right? So that's, as you can see, this flash drive is the most sold one. And after you have these sponsored products, it's like a front-running thing, right? So it's like, they're gonna get a lot of things out of it. So there are a lot of works showing that depends on how you order users, you might change you might end up biasing them. But then what we can do about regarding governance. So I was thinking about more an aligned delegation matching. So instead of me going to this platform and just checking who are, let's say, the most powerful users in terms of voting power, why not maybe selecting them based on my own interests? Think about how we actually cast a vote here in any, let's say, real world or traditional democracy, right? Typically, I mean, we have a bunch of candidates, and then usually, I mean, by the way, in Brazil, voting is mandatory, by the way, so I have to vote, or I can also pay a small fee if I don't. But in any case, I'm going to skip this, but the thing is, keep in mind that typically I choose my candidates pretty wisely. I mean, it's like, do they support what I want, right, for the country or whatever? It's like maybe EVs, right? If I'm a pro-EV, I'd like a candidate that basically represents my interests, right, as a voter. So why not doing the same for DAOs, right? I guess that this might perhaps help balance the voting power concentration in DAOs. Might be one thing. It's worth trying, right? So I'm still working on these. I'm in the preliminary phase. I'm gonna show you the roadmap in a sec. But then, one typical example might be kind of these delegation advisor systems. You go to these websites, you have a bunch of candidates, and then basically the system can ask you some questions, and then based on these questions, they can show you a list of candidates, right? Let's say, hey, you are more, let's say, left party or right wing, whatever, you know, or central or whatever. You support whatever immigration or I don't know, defense spend. I don't know. So basically, might be the case. Or if you want to go, let's say, easier than that, you can essentially allow users to basically, instead of just having those three options, you can categorize those accounts based, yeah, you know, they like more security updates or whatever. They typically vote more on security issues or to add a new parameters to whatever protocol. So yeah, might be one of the things. So in order to do that, of course, this is just an idea for now, but I've been working on this. So we need data, right? Come on, because how can we infer these interests for these delegates if we don't analyze their voting history as well as how they engaged on these forum discussions or even Telegram, right? So basically, I'm basically gathering a lot of data, of course, from the blockchain. Yeah, I mean, it's public, but accessibility is not, I mean, sometimes it's not so simple, but of course, we can deploy archive nodes or rely on some external data sources. For instance, we have an archive node for Ethereum. We're deploying Arbitrum as well in our servers. And yeah, and there are also other external data providers as well that we can rely on. Regarding the voting behavior analysis, yeah, by analyzing how they voted, right, this might give us some signals, and also related to the text-based content, maybe we can leverage LLMs, right, to help us categorize this text, but of course we can also rely on other machine learning tools, for instance NLP, for instance, right? And then next, my plan is to actually implement such a solution. And as a researcher, in the end of the day, I want to publish papers, right? So yeah, this is also among my goals. So keep in mind, this is I'm still in this phase, but probably in the next 2 months, I'm targeting a really good venue. I'm also on the PC, and for those who are planning to submit papers to AFT tomorrow, so yeah, I look forward to review your papers as well. So the thing is, how can we improve DAOs? This is just a conclusion here. Fairness matters. It's really important, you know. And avoiding this token concentration, it's really key for DAOs, right? And then we have this problem of to whom should I delegate my tokens to, right? And the proposed solution here is maybe, of course, I'm gonna test it and hopefully it's gonna work. Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed. And then it's having more interest aligned matching delegation matching mechanism. Quick questions that I'm considering as well that are really important, like how many delegates that are actually available. It seems there are a lot, but I'm still investigating more in depth. And are there enough, let's say, interests? Because if all accounts basically have just one interest, this could invalidate the project. But yeah, this is something that I'm gonna get to know in the second phase. And yeah, so with that, I'm gonna conclude my talk. If you have any questions or if you want to reach out to me, here are my Telegrams and Twitter, and the QR code for my website with a bunch of other works that I've done, yeah, and I've been doing. So with that, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan. So while you're all thinking about your questions, people are still buying flash drives?
I mean, yeah, you know, yeah, maybe. Or maybe, you know, you attend an event and then sometimes they just give you, but I wouldn't use them for security reasons, but yeah.
All right, who has a question?
Thank you for your interesting talk. And I also share your intuition that the way the DAOs delegate and ultimately reach consensus on choices needs to improve if we want DAOs to become a more prevalent thing in society. And you mentioned potentially using LLMs or NLP in general, machine learning approaches. And I also have this intuition that this could be very transformational for DAOs. But then, of course, when involving AI, you have the question of how exactly does that work? Is that running locally? Are you using some kind of a third party? And then if the third party can be trusted, or are you using some kind of a decentralized approach, which is still kind of new in the literature, is not quite developed? And how are you thinking about this machine learning approach within your solution proposal?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So this would be more an off-chain approach, where users could consult, I mean, and check among all the accounts available which ones might be more aligned with their interests, or at least in a preliminary phase, we could just, rank ourselves the accounts based on a lot of interests that we identified. So I'd say, yeah, there are a lot of things that we have to consider. For instance, is whether I'm fitting these accounts in the correct category as well. This time will tell. Yeah, but I guess I truly believe on DAOs, and I guess yeah, all I can tell that this is a really amazing concept, and yeah, and I really like doing this kind of research with that regard, because we need to fix some stuff, right? Yeah, I was about to say something that I basically forgot now, but yeah, if I remember, I'm gonna, yeah.
There was another question over here.
Really nice talk. So you showed that actually, so these websites like Tally, right? Tally, that they actually like sort. I mean, the default way is like sorted. It's not random, right? But actually like by voting power, and I think like number of delegations have been done. Like,
Yeah, there are three types that they consider, at least. Yeah, let me just wait. Just sorry, guys, I forgot the shortcut to basically skip the animations. So yeah, okay, 3, 2, 1. There we go. So let me click. So here is the thing. They have three ways to rank order these users, and the last one is random. I mean, it's like by giving users a random option is like, don't show anything, let them get to know themselves, right? Because in the end of the day, it's not informative as well. Yeah, it's not informative. And if you rank order based on their power, you are basically, having this effect, the rich gets richer, right? So because basically they would consider the top players, and they wouldn't even perhaps question whether that account is more aligned with their interests, right? Those are the things I'm investigating. Yeah.
exactly. So that's what I wanted to ask. So basically, ordering by voting power, this will have the centralization, like the snowball effect, right?
Yeah.
Where it will grow, and over time, so someone who just started at early the beginning during the voting phase got a lot of votes, it will eventually win already, right? Probably.
Might be.
Right. So is this something you want to investigate, and like, is this not technically challenging? I mean, how would you, do you have any ideas on how you would do this? How you can actually, after some voting has been done, and how you can actually do this historical analysis over time, and then in order to identify, like, okay, it was really because of the way it was ranked that actually this guy
Yeah.
probably got so much votes.
Yeah. So for instance, okay, let me speak regarding the on-chain voting. For instance, whatever, Compound, Uniswap, and others. So actually, since everything is recorded on the blockchain, even the delegations as well. If I want to delegate to you, I have to issue a transaction. It's going to be recorded on this blockchain. If I sell my tokens, it's going to also change the delegation as well, right? So we have the whole history, and then this would be an interesting way to analyze what is going on. I mean, how this delegation change hands as well, right? It's like why this participant is changing, or maybe another way I see this being applied is that, okay, let's analyze the past and what's next for the future. So imagine then we keep tracking of the interest over time of those accounts. Then if we succeed in terms of allowing, let's say, to give a list of most aligned delegates to a user, we can also ask them for their email and from time to time tell them, hey, by the way, your interests, so far as we know, are those. But keep in mind that the account you delegate to, that they basically are changing their interests based on how they started behaving after time t, right? And then would you reconsider your position, or you just keep it as it is? So those are kind of questions that I really want to investigate. So yeah, I know this is not like a typical talk, right? Because I'm also throwing a bunch of ideas that I'm gonna do. And if you have any comments as well, if you want whatever to collaborate, just reach out to me. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Then